So when I think of my career path and coming back to education and what that looks like, I always think of sort of my mom and some of the families here in San Gabriel Valley who really need to know that there's resources for them, that there's care, that you can engage with other communities, like communities, that there's parent engagement and those types of things, which I know we really try to foster at Options for Learning. And so that's really the path in which I came here.
Well, I love the San Gabriel Valley.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast.
So I grew up here and I still live in Alhambra.
I was raised in between Temple City and Alhambra.
Eventually resided in South San Gabriel.
Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley.
Monterey Park has pretty much been my whole life.
Well, I'm proud to say that I was born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley.
We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you are from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome. All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new here, we bring you the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We do appreciate it. Well, if you are watching online, you'll notice that I'm back in my chair. However, Scott is still not here. So I think this may mark the 6th week in a row. Maybe 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks in a row. But he will be back. So it's just me and Victoria again today. But as usual, we'll be just fine. Only, though, I'll have to have this opening dialogue with myself because Victoria is not mic'd today. So, well, what I wanted to talk about was like just the different avenues of learning, right? Like I've mentioned on the show many times that I didn't particularly enjoy public school. I didn't enjoy being forced to learn what they wanted me to learn, how, and I would say that I picked up on things really quickly, but was confused as to why I had to do it for weeks, the same concept, and do it over and over again. Like that just didn't resonate with me. And then as an adult, figuring out like, oh, things that I'm really interested in were not a challenge to do. And I would retain that information so much better. And I was excited to learn. And I just thought like, wow, that, and there's different ways, right? Like now, if I want to pursue something, I may be interested in actually seeking out someone to mentor me to do that. Or I may look at a video online to learn it, or I may read something about it. Like there's just so many different ways. And having information just presented to me in this one particular way, 5 days a week for years was challenging to me. So, as an adult now, I realize like there are so many other ways to approach learning other than just one particular way in school. And, I've shared on this show many times that my wife and I take a child-led approach to learning, being constantly aware of what their interests are and helping them to facilitate learning that. And we don't have to know everything. We just have to know what they like, what they enjoy, and then, sort of help them to facilitate their own learning. So before we get into our guests, though, thank you to Paris Baguette for sponsoring the delicious pastries every week for our guests. Go check them out in the city of San Gabriel on Las Tunas and say hi to Jason for us. All right, so on to today's guests. There's two of them. Today we're joined by two dynamic leaders who are shaping early childhood education in the San Gabriel Valley. Representing Options for Learning, we have Paul Pulver, the CEO since 2019, who oversees programs that support nearly 9,000 children across 90 sites and 300 classrooms in Los Angeles County. With over 35 years in nonprofit leadership, Paul is known for fostering growth and expanding resources that empower children and families. Beyond his role at Options for Learning, he's an active board member for the Child Care Alliance of Los Angeles and Su Misericordia, a faith-based organization supporting indigenous communities in Mexico. Alongside Paul is Johanna Atienza, the Chief Growth and Innovation Officer, who's bringing fresh vision to the organization. With a background in higher education and external relations, Johanna is passionate about educational equity and creating inclusive learning environments. Her initiatives focus on early childhood education, mental wellness, and anti-bias practices, all with the goal of building communities where children and families can reach their full potential. Together, Paul and Johanna are driving impactful change for young learners in our community. Please welcome Paul Pulver and Johanna Atienza from Options for Learning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So sorry, that was a mouthful, and I tried to get through that. But typically, this show we highlight people from the community and we tell their stories. And you aren't the first organization to come here, right? You're representing Options for Learning, but we still want to know, like, are you one of us? Are you an SG? Are you from the SGV? So let's start there. Paul, what's your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
Well, I grew up in Rancho Cucamonga, so not too far outside of the San Gabriel Valley, but I think my roots here started when I attended Azusa Pacific University and spent 5 years finishing my college degree there.
I see. Okay. And Johanna?
Yeah, I grew up here in San Gabriel Valley. I lived in El Monte and then West Covina. So attended Rio Hondo Elementary School, go Rams, and El Monte High School. And so I'm just always been drawn to San Gabriel Valley, and now I currently reside in Pasadena.
Oh, okay. So you're for sure are a member now, right? And so here you guys are both here to share about Options for Learning. So let's just start there. What is Options for Learning?
Options for Learning, we are a kind of a multifaceted childcare primarily organization. So we offer services, and we're serving primarily low-income families through federal and state-funded programs. We have a variety of childcare settings or options that we can connect families to, whether those be our own centers, the 300 classrooms that we operate, or a multitude of family childcare homes throughout the San Gabriel Valley and independent providers that are running and providing childcare in their homes, and even connecting families where they can have their own family, friend, or neighbor be the childcare provider for their child.
Oh, so someone who is already maybe doing it, or like says, I can't do it because I don't have the income, you can help them to get paid for doing that?
Absolutely. Grandma, uncle, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like such an amazing program to be able to help people like that, because they're probably doing it already.
That's true in a lot of cases. And really it's trying to give the parents the choice of what do you want for your child, but also what's the best setting, schedule, whatever it might be. And oftentimes we'll see families will choose a family friend or neighbor as their child is a little bit younger, but then they want either the family child care home or a center as their child gets a little older so that there's more social interaction and that kind of growth.
And Paul, what brought you to this type of work?
Well, I have spent my entire career working with child and youth serving organizations. So I've always had a passion for making a difference in the trajectory, I think, both of students and children. So I started my career working in the Catholic Church with high school students and did that for 12 years. And then when my youngest son was born, he was early on diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And so that got me involved in United Cerebral Palsy in Orange County, and eventually was hired later as their executive director. So I made the shift from working within the church then into the nonprofit world.
And what is meaningful or rewarding for you to know that you've made an influence on the trajectory of a young person's life?
I think giving them the opportunities, the tools, the experiences that really will kind of open their eyes, open their opportunities. You talked about not being a traditional learner and not always wanting to learn the same things. And I think exposing kids and young people to different experiences and different things and finding where, like you said, where their interest is and helping them build upon that. You know, people that are not good at basketball don't enjoy basketball, but people that are good at basketball really enjoy it, and they'll get better and better and spend the time that they need. And I think that's what we want all of our kids to find is, what is it you're really passionate about, and how can we help you continue to explore and develop those skills, because you'll be able to translate those into eventually not only further education but into an income and making a living for your future family.
Yeah. And Johanna, what What brought you into this line of work?
You know, I didn't expect to be in this line of work. But I will say I've always cared about education, educational equity. So being the daughter of Filipino first generation, parents, there was definitely that high expectation that I think a lot of our Asian, compatriots can relate to. And what I mean by that is I definitely went through just school very quickly. So I, excelled in public school. I went to college and then I went to law school and then found myself at a crossroads, very funny enough, at like 25, 26 years old, like, I don't think I want to be a lawyer. Like I really like the language and knowing how to effectuate change because I know that's where the power lies. But something always came back to me in terms of education and wanting and knowing that if you can generationally change that really that intervention, then the future generations to come will have sort of a different outcome and trajectory, like I've said. And so I always reflect upon when my parents came here. My dad came first because it was the 70s and they needed engineers and nurses. And it was my grandmother was like, you should try to go. My dad didn't necessarily want to go. He ended up in Chicago, which was super cold, and then found himself in Southern California where we had some family here. At that time, kind of reunification and bringing family over wasn't as easy, right? So my mom and my older brother stayed in the Philippines for a while. My mom came and then had me, and she had a really challenging time, sort of like just acclimating. She didn't have her support, her village, so much so that, well, years later, my brother came and we were all together. My mom got pregnant again with my youngest brother and decided to actually go to the Philippines because she knew she had her family there. She wouldn't be so lonely and isolated. So when I think of my career path in coming back to education and what that looks like, I always think of sort of my mom and some of the families here in San Gabriel Valley who really need to know that there's resources for them, that there's care, that you can engage with other communities, like communities, that there's parent engagement and those types of things, which I know we really try to foster at Options for Learning. And so that's really the path in which I came here. After law school, I worked in higher education and just education in general, knowing that was, like I said, sort of the intervention that really effectuates that change if you want to take advantage of it. And if we can remove barriers to that so that it is more equitable, so that everyone really can thrive in the best way possible that wants to. And that's how I found myself here.
It sounds like maybe your mom would have benefited greatly from these services. Did they exist as they do today back then? And if they did, was it like an awareness that your mom maybe didn't have, or was it access to it, or how would you describe that?
I think it's probably both. I mean, in thinking of Head Start, it's been around for a long time. I think it stemmed after World War II, actually, in finding greater supports for families and strengthening the family unit. But when you come to the United States, you don't necessarily see a Filipino community. There isn't someone that's referring you, right, to services. We talk a lot about parent referrals and parent engagement. There wasn't sort of that connection for my mom. She didn't know what was available, and she didn't know how to access it. And I think within the school district, that wasn't something that was looked at as much or was examined as a potential barrier, right? I think we're much better, decades later, that we really need to come to the space of our community, what their needs are, how do we change our language, whether it's the way in which we reach our families, the materials, the languages that we use, who reaches out to us. I think had those things been in place where resources and supports seem to be more just accessible or not as scary. I think when you are new to the country, things are just scary in general. I know that was for my mom, right? She was just like, okay, I need to just figure this out. But she really didn't know who to ask and where to ask for help. So I think it's both of those pieces. Yeah.
You mentioned the equity piece being important to you, and it sounds like that looks like reaching the people who need it in the way that they need it, making it more or less scary, and understanding their culture. So maybe you're coming to them with in their own language. Is that one of them? And how else are you like bridging that gap from like making it uncomfortable or scary to like finding them where they are?
I think we ask them. I think we create those spaces, whether it's, affinity groups or parent groups, where parents can come together and really just talk about some of the challenges that they're currently going through, whether they're, of like culture or just a diverse set of parents. I think just breaking that barrier down at first so it is less scary. But I always say the answer is not with us. The answer is in our community and what we need to create as an intervention. And so that might mean holding a resource fair that's on a Saturday or in the evening, or calling a parent in the evening, not during the day, because during the day they're working. And so really making it easy for, the end user, the parent, the children, the families, the providers that we're serving, because that's inherently our mission, is to make sure that our children and our families thrive and that they really unlock the potential that they're capable of to the full extent that, they can and want to.
Paul, as leader of this organization for the last 4 or 5 years, what's something that you've worked hard to keep in place that was working well, and what's something that you worked hard to bring about some change within your organization?
I would say the thing that I have worked hard to keep is really the quality staff, especially our classroom teaching staff, who care deeply. Many of them have been with us for years and years. So trying to make sure that we're treating them well, equipping them with the resources, tools, training that they need, so that they can continue to thrive and that they'll want to stay and continue to serve our community. I think some of the things we've tried to change is making it easier for families to access us. As we grew over the years, we established different divisions and departments, and each one of them ran pretty autonomously. When I got this job, I moved to Glendora for a year so I would live in the community. And I remember getting, one of those typical mailers with coupons and advertisements, and Options for Learning had an advertisement in there. It was a small and not great looking ad, but it had 4 different boxes of 4 different programs and 4 different phone numbers. And I looked at it from a parent's perspective and said, almost all 4 boxes, the description of the program seems like what my child would need. I don't understand the distinction, and I don't know which phone number to call. And so we've worked hard to bring it to one phone number, to be able to have all families access us through one place. Really build a team that can work with families, understand what their needs are, what they're looking for their child, and then among the various options that we have available, match them with the one that best meets their needs and that they qualify for, or just what they're looking for. And trying to build that one kind of that family, we're all working together within our organization to best serve our community, I think are some of the things that have been pretty important to me.
When you say classroom, I envision like my 4th or 5th grade classroom at a school, but I imagine that it's different. So what is a classroom within Options for Learning?
We have a variety of classrooms, but one of our models that our founder, Cliff Markison, developed was placing portables that we own on school campuses. And so our classrooms look oftentimes like a portable classroom, but we try to do a nice job with it. Sometimes there's 1 or 2 or 3 classrooms, and sometimes there's 4 or 5 different portables in classrooms, and a variety of services that can be provided there. But oftentimes they're on the school campus, which makes it quite convenient for the family who may have an older child at the school, and now their younger child can be starting there in our preschool programs. There are other locations. We own a few childcare centers that are brick and mortar buildings with playgrounds and all those kinds of things. And then there are other places where we lease property, storefront, whatever it might be, that is convenient in the neighborhoods of the families we're trying to serve. And we've developed those again into very rich classrooms, but again, with the playgrounds and the different learning environments that our children can thrive in. So it's a variety.
So the ones that are on the school campus, the classroom environment is taking place after school?
No, this would be, we have part day and full day preschool programs. So our portables in our location would be fenced in.
Oh, I see.
Like maybe a kindergarten would have a separate area. But we're on the school campus, or sometimes a school campus has a park right there and we're kind of between the two. But it would be more like that.
Okay, and so the age is quite young.
Historically, our organization, because of the funding as well, in our classrooms, we have served 3 and 4 year olds up to 5. Head Start, state preschool, some of those funding sources, that was the primary age group. We're finding now that, especially with the expansion of transitional kindergarten, and also just within the San Gabriel Valley, Los Angeles County, there is a great need for services for 0 to 3, infants and toddlers. And so we are doing work, as well as many others are, to really shift some of our classrooms to be able to start to serve more infants and toddlers, as well as then preschool age. So it is that mix.
I see. I have a memory of like Inez Elementary School, and there was, I think, 6 of these, I think we called them bungalows.
Yes.
And there's like a certain sound when you walk up the ramp.
Yep.
And
the metal ramp.
Yeah. And you know, I think back, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, those were the things, but I just thought that they were buildings before, you know, when you're very young. But yeah.
Yeah, and we try to incorporate gardening and a lot of different activities that really will spark, again, that curiosity of children to learn, tactile, just a variety of things for them to do. Music, of course, would be important, all of those things.
What does the outreach in the community look like? You know, how do you get the word out to parents? You know, are you organizing events, or what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a dedicated recruitment and outreach team, and some of the things that we've done is to attend back to school night in all the districts that we have a presence. That includes San Gabriel Unified, Roland, Alhambra, so all over the footprint of San Gabriel Valley. We attend those. We've actually also facilitated our own health and resource fair. So knowing that we want to come to the community, so we had a really big event over the summer at Morgan Park in Baldwin Park, and that had hundreds of folks attending. But, you know, we had various vendors, as well as, you know, obviously educating the community in terms of, you know, what we offer. And then also reaching out to different organizations where there might be peer-to-peer referrals or really a great alignment. And so that means reaching out to domestic violence shelters or homeless organizations, even WIC offices, because, again, we want to remove those barriers and make things accessible. So for us to really be there, not in a way that's, you know, intrusive, but really just as an offering and really being that sort of caring organization, because we want to be able to, again, foster that thriving and healthiness among families. And so there's different ways in which we outreach. And even our outreach might include social, you know, what that looks like, some of the things that we're doing, as well as our materials. So making sure that those, whether it's pictures, the languages that we use, resonate with the communities that we're serving, right? So you might have, you know, a flyer that sounds a certain way in English, but then you use variations of different words if it's in Spanish, because Google Translate's not it. Like, it's not, that's not going to work. But we're really thoughtful in making sure that the ways in which we reach out to our families is intentional and authentic as well. So it's really, I would say, this comprehensive approach in terms of how we want to and strive to reach out to our families.
Yeah, and I would say that it's an area that we're continuing to learn. As an organization, like others, we don't have a lot of money to market and advertise, and so we have to be creative. And for many years, our organization has always been committed to reaching the families. So for many years, we would have our teachers at, if they were off in the afternoon, we would have them and other staff go to Target parking lot or go to a park and just start trying to find families that have young kids with them and reaching out to them and seeing if they needed care and making sure that they knew that we were here in the community. I have shifted that because I really think our teachers need to be in the classroom focused on learning and serving the kids. But we're really trying to figure out with the resources we have, what is the best way to reach our community and really penetrate in. We continue to be, referrals come to us primarily from word of mouth of other families. And that's a great compliment to our program and to our staff. But we want to make sure we're continuing to really reach people that have never heard about us and didn't know. And really, we're here also as what's called a child care resource and referral agency. We are one of those in the state. We are meant to be here for every family, regardless of income, that we are a resource to connect every family to the licensed child care that is available in the community, and to teach them about how to find and what to look for in quality child care, the different child care options, all of those kinds of things. And so that's something we want to continue to serve our community, but we got to continue to find ways to make sure they know that we're here for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say there are organizations and businesses that are really supportive of this, outreach to families. And so, for instance, Foothill Transit, they donated just space in their buses for us to be able to advertise, sometimes bus shelters as well. And so I think the more we're out there and just talking about the work that we do, we find that it's important to many businesses and organizations. And so we can really be, kind of clever in that way in terms of the different ways in which we can be where our families are, even putting advertisements on grocery carts, etc. And so doctors' offices, for instance, because we know that's where children and parents are.
And coming on podcasts.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, hopefully to reach, the families like this. Once you bridge that gap of awareness, now you're in front of them, you're talking to parents. What are the common questions or concerns that they have before they go into a program like this?
I would think, I don't do that work directly, but I would think that many families are interested in, is the program, the teachers, the classroom, is it culturally respectful and appropriate, for my particular culture? Is there a cost? How expensive is it? Because childcare, we all know, is very expensive. But we're able to provide most of our families childcare and programs at no cost or a very low cost, depending on their income. And with our programs, this is through the state and federal government, but there are programs where a family of 4 can be making close to $100,000 and still qualify for some help. And so that can be a big assistance to families who are trying to make it in a really high cost area of living. But I think, what are the things my child is going to learn? Is it more educational? Is it more play-based? What are the locations? There's just a lot of questions that I think parents are going to have.
Sure.
Another one I think is, what if I'm not documented? Is that going to prevent me or my child from receiving services? And thankfully, that is just not an issue. That's not even a question that we can ask or do ask. And so really our services are available to everyone that lives in our community.
Yeah, and I think most parents, at the end of the day, just want to know that their child is safe and cared for, and that they have peace of mind so that they can pursue work, that they can go back to school. So very often that's really at the core of can I leave my universe, my baby, my superstar, with these teachers, and very often that's true. And so giving that care and that peace of mind is really key, I think, for parents.
Yes, my question would be, as a parent, how are they vetted? How do I know my child is going to be safe?
Yeah, so there's a number of things. In terms of the safety first, all of our staff, but especially our classroom staff, have to go through what's called live scan. So that's not only a fingerprint, but it runs all the criminal background, and it also continues to monitor if they are involved in any additional crime. And so we get notification of that. That's great if they have a record, but to weed them out, I think the ongoing notification is very helpful as well. And then a lot of it is really both their education, their experience, their background. Hopefully we have good interviewing processes, but there has to be continued ongoing observation work with our teachers to make sure. We've had very few issues. We probably have 600 classroom staff, and over the years we've had very few issues, but they do happen from time to time, and so the organization has to have the mechanisms to respond appropriately and quickly to continue to ensure the safety of the children every day.
Yeah. I want to briefly just share this thought, because one time, I think it was Gavin DeBecker, he was talking about if parents are vetting a babysitter and they're asking all these questions, right? And he's like, what's the question that you really want to know? I really want to know, have you ever hurt a child? And nobody asks that. And he's like, I don't know why. He's like, if you ask that and they're like, oh my gosh, no, you have a response. And if you get, well, there was this one time, right? Or if you go well, what do you mean by hurt? Right? But that's the question that you really want to know as a parent,
that's a great
right?
question.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I just wanted to share that out there, if you're looking for a babysitter or something, and just to realize that's what you really sort of want to know. It's totally unrelated to your process, but so I'm sure there's a lot of shock that this is available out there, right? I certainly was shocked to hear it. And I imagine that you often get that from parents saying oh, is this really free, or low, or can I really get this, right? And once they're in the program, or what does that look like to actually get them in?
I mean, once they're in the program, we really provide that high quality environment. Our teachers connect with the parents on a regular basis. Just even signing in and out, that's also a touch point in which a teacher can connect with a parent or caregiver. There's lots of different events that we do throughout the year, whether it's kind of like a Read Across America Day, or even celebrating different cultures, different holidays, etc. And so we're really mindful of that parent engagement piece and the children engagement piece as well. Our classrooms, Russell, you were talking about what it looked like for you in public school. They're safe, but they're also very welcoming environments, right? So we really think about creating a home for our students, and that looks like, places for reading, little sort of nooks for that. You can sit on the carpet. There's, different levels of chairs and areas for imaginative play or art and those things. And so it's this environment for children where we continue to spark their curiosity. There's a balance of, okay, they're, learning things here and there that are quote unquote academic. But really at its core in these early years, it's a lot of social emotional learning, right? And being able to get along and preparing them for their next stage, which is, the big time, kindergarten and grade school and everything else. Because we know that infancy to 5 years old are really just the important years where your brain is really working. It's building all of these synapses and connections. And so having a great foundational base is key so that they can really be set up, our children can be set up for success, later in life.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. We ask each guest to bring an item of significance, and I was curious. I was like, "Oh, are they going to bring one or two?" And you guys have each brought one, so I'm thankful for that. What did you bring with you today?
I brought a picture of my grandmother. So this is a picture of my grandmother. Her name was Maria Atienza. She is the one I was talking to you about that was urging my dad to, hey, come to the United States. There's, opportunity there. And she knew just systemically that what that would look like in terms of changing generationally, just the future, right? Future generations in her family. She passed away this past summer at 98 years old. So she was our tough matriarch for sure. And it's also, October is also Filipino American History Month. And so it's a call to that as well, or kudos to that in the sense that she helped start that Filipino American history here in Almani, in this small apartment on Ramona Boulevard all those years ago. So this is my item of significance, and I'm going to put it on our ofrenda. So Filipinos, like Mexicans, celebrate a version of Dia de los Muertos, although we call it All Saints Day. And, creating an altar now in my house. And so I actually grabbed that from my fireplace and wanted to, bring it here today.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. For the listening audience, when I look at her, sometimes I look at older faces and you can tell like if they wore a scowl or a smile their whole life, like you can just sort of see it's like marked in their face, right? And she looks like she's both a very strong, but, often smiled a lot. Yeah, I can see that in her face.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that.
Thank you, Russell.
Paul, what did you bring with you?
I brought the plaque that I received from Azusa Pacific University when I completed the ministry credential program there. And I really, not only it ties me, to the San Gabriel Valley, but really the formation in me and the equipping to really serve the community and try to make a difference. I think that was embedded in my heart at a younger age by my dad and my family, of course, but really kind of formed and equipped through Azusa Pacific University.
Awesome. Thank you for bringing that in.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm very curious about this program to help, like if a family member is actually watching a child. But let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Sometimes even the best of us can slip up. That's why the law offices of Scott Wormuth are here to pick you back up again.
And while they strive to get you the biggest compensation possible, oh my gosh,
their main concern is your health and recovery. They work closely with doctors and insurance companies to make sure you get the proper medical treatment.
Initial consultations are free, so give them a call.
At the law offices of Scott Wormuth, we're with you all the way.
I'm Scott Wormuth. We've been fighting for your rights for more than 40 years.
All right, we're back with Johanna and Paul. Before the break, we were going over your items of significance. Thank you for bringing those in. Before we get back to your story, when we come back from break, we like to ask questions from this deck of cards called Icebreakers, and they're just a fun way for the audience to get to know us a little bit better. So actually, you're out this time because you're not mic'd. So I'll answer this as well. The question is, what are you most looking forward to in the next 10 years?
10 years, okay.
That's a long time horizon.
It is, yeah.
I think so much of it is being, I have a son, so just he's an only child. I think part of it is just making sure I nurture him into the best version of what he wants to be, that he has this growth mindset and he continues to approach life with curiosity. That's probably most of my, 10 years, I would say. And I want to be able to probably think and look back at this day or my career as it's going forward. I've only been with Options for Learning for 2 years. What that's looked like how many families have we impacted? Did we expand our territory beyond San Gabriel Valley? Because that's why I came to this organization, is it was just such a huge footprint. And so I'm wondering, what did that legacy look like? Being the growth and innovations person, I'd hope that I brought in some new stuff, generative AI, which will probably be completely old school 10 years from now. But just making sure that I just did probably just the best I can for the communities that I care about.
Awesome.
I think for me, my wife and I have a blended family, and so between us we have 5 children, and they are just in the young budding in terms of family ages, I currently have 4 grandchildren and 1 more on the way, and so the next 10 years, really for me, a lot of it is looking at more grandchildren, the fun, watching them grow, having a very different role in a young person's life from, rather than a parent, a grandparent is just a completely different role, and just having that time with them and enjoying. There is a work element, I'm sure, over the next 10 years in terms of, what can we do together to continue to better serve the community, and what will that legacy look like? But I think the next 10 years will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it with so many grandchildren. Yeah. For me, it will be, mostly through the lens of my changing family, right? I have young daughters, and then also my wife. Like, what will our marriage look like when they are older? When I'm holding my young ones, and I think, I want this to last forever. And then as they change, I'm like really enjoying their growth and them at this new stage. And now I'm like, I still want you to be this small, but I'm still, really enjoying them growing and they're changing in life. So I just want to take all of that in and, be present for as much of it as I can. Yeah. If you're watching online or listening, let us know, what are you looking forward to most in the next 10 years? Well, one of the things that I was really interested in when I heard this, and I think a lot of the listeners and the community may also be interested in, is this concept or idea that whoever is already taking care of their young children can qualify, or if they have thought that a family member or friend may be able to participate in this program. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, again, I think many families need someone to care for their child. There are not very many stay-at-home moms, if you want to say, anymore. And so there's care that's needed. But oftentimes we know that family members are some of the primary caregivers other than the parents. And so we're really blessed, I think, in our state that our state-funded programs allow, and this has been growing over the last few years, but allow family, friends, or neighbors to become the paid child care provider. They do have to go through the live scan background check and all of those things as well. But I think this is such a beneficial option for families who cares for their child more than grandma or grandpa or relatives that are close to them, or often, again, we make great friends in our neighborhoods, and those people really care for our children and can be great care providers. So I think it's a great option that continues to, the utilization of it has been growing, and I think for very good reason. We are working also, this is a little bit harder to bring these people together, train, equip, but it is something that we're going to continue to work on of how can we support those care providers in the ways that really meet the needs of the children that they're providing care for. And so we're going to continue to look at the different ways to support them, with the time that they have available in that.
Does it have to be outside of the nuclear family? Like, could it be if someone wanted to be a stay-at-home parent and that they could receive the support, or does it have to be a friend, a grandma, grandpa?
It does not have to be a blood relative, if that's what you're asking.
Oh no, my question is like let's say a stay-at-home mom, like her decision to go back to work is purely financial, but she's like, if I can receive some sort of benefit, I would prefer to be at home with my child.
I believe that in these programs there does have to be a demonstrated need for care. So in other words, that the parent is working or going to school or something like that to qualify.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because that a need for care, like yeah. I would imagine a lot of moms would want to stay home, but okay. So it'd have to be someone else other than the parent themselves caring for the child.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And are there any other programs that I haven't touched on that you guys would like to talk about?
Yeah, we have also, it's a smaller portion of our organization, but it's an important piece where we do provide both before and after school programs for school age kids. Oftentimes parents, some have to get to work early before school starts, and so we have classrooms and care that's available before school. And then typically after school, there's a variety of programs, but it's much more enrichment, trying to support the educational day, what has happened, not quite tutoring, but helping the students with their work, but also trying to introduce new and additional areas of interest and curiosity to them in the after school hours.
I see.
And we also have a nutrition program, and so our nutrition program provides snacks and meals to our locations, as well as providers who choose to take it or want to take that service as well.
Which is probably really huge, right? Like I remember after school every day, like also there's no way I can make it from after school to dinner without some sort of snack. Yeah. And then now as an adult, I realize like many families, like just getting the dinner on the table may be a challenge. Mm-hmm. So a snack is like a luxury, for them. So, wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to move on to the final segment of the show, and we're going to learn from both of you what you guys like in the San Gabriel Valley. All right, so this is what we call the SGV3, and we ask you to share your 3 favorite or most memorable places or experiences in the San Gabriel Valley. And I asked you both outside, I was like, did you combine it? Is one of you doing it? Are both of you doing it? And I'm thrilled that both of you have your own 3. So who would like to go first?
Ladies first.
Okay, I can go first. One of my top 3 would have to be Little Manila, so the corner of Amar and Azusa in West Covina. That's where I get my, Filipino food fix. My favorite bakery there is Valerio's. They have the best empanadas, so that would be one of them.
Little Manila.
I like to call it Little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's Manila Way. Yeah, I mean, there's literally Christian. You know this. It's.
Is there a Turo Turo restaurant there?
Yes, so many. There's like 4. Turo Turo means point. So you're just pointing at the food that you want. Okay. Yeah. So.
And is there good turon out there?
The turon that I really like is actually from Chaste Family Market, which is not in Little Manila. It's on Allen in Pasadena. So they have the best, but yeah.
Okay.
So that's one.
Well, there's 3 that you threw in there.
Oh, I know. Okay. I know.
All food related.
All food. Yeah, mine are all food related. Actually, the second one is food related. Okay. It's props to where I grew up in Almani. So Tito's Market, they have the best sandwiches. I think at this point it's like 3rd generation, but Argentinian sandwiches and empanadas as well. Apparently empanadas is like a big thing for me. And the last, I would say it actually reminds me of when my son was really little, but the turtles in Caltech, little turtle pond, we used to always walk there. And that was just really fun. I could wear them out, and then it was nap time. But that was just a really great and peaceful space and free.
Yeah. I first learned of that maybe 2 years ago from James DiPietro, who's a guest on our show, and he mentioned that as one of his. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, free. I love free with my kids, right? And they love it. Yeah. They literally come out of the water, and there's so many. Like if you're worried if you go there, you may or may not see them. No, you're going to see them, and you're going to see a lot of them.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those.
Thanks, Russell.
Paul, what is the first one for you?
The first one's going to be food as well, and so I'll pay homage to In-N-Out, and they're starting in Baldwin Park, and we're lucky that at our new office there's an In-N-Out right across the street, and it's one of those foods that I love, and I think always will, even over the next 10 years.
What do you like to get there, Paul?
I'm just a straight up double with regular onions,
okay,
fries, and a drink. Yeah.
What's the line like out that one that you go to across the street?
It gets pretty bad. Yeah, they have cones and all that marking the traffic flow.
Yeah. When people who are not from California talk about In-N-Out, and they're like, oh, that's fast food, right? I was like, well, it's sort of fast food, but it's not fast.
It's not fast.
Not as fast as you'd always like, but it's worth the wait, right?
Yeah. And what's the second place?
My second one is new. This past summer, we went to a concert in the park, kind of a deal through the Pasadena Symphony. And that was just a fantastic experience. They did such a great job and just really enjoyed it. The third one I would go back to Azusa Pacific. University. I think for me, the experience that I had there, I will never forget, and I really appreciate they continue to really try to shape students who will really make an impact in their communities moving forward. So,
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those. Thank you both. If people want to get in touch with Options for Learning, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go on our website, which is www.optionsforlearning.org, or you can call our general number, which is 626-699-8060.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this valuable resource to our community and to our audience. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you go. Another episode in the books. I honestly didn't know about this service, and I can instantly see like, wow, there must be so many families that would benefit from just learning about this service. But I think in this episode, we got to not only hear what they do, but the people behind it and the reasons that they're doing it, which I feel is more important than what you do, right? Why you do it is infinitely more important, I think, than what you do. So here you get to hear the stories behind why these individuals are part of this organization, what they believe is important. And, if that's a helper in you making a decision to, enroll or participate in this program, it certainly would be for me if I'm seeking these kind of services. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Don't forget to like and share. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe. And if you want to see the full catalog of episodes, check out our website, mysgv.net. Don't forget, I do write a weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday, so please check that out. If you want to support this show in a more meaningful way, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon under MySGV Podcast. And until next week, we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on the MySGV Podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Scott Wormuth, directed by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers, and original music by Yone OG. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother. No, kind of mother.